Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about something that's a little bit controversial, and I'm going to try to clear this up for you, and that is fasting your discus fish, or for that matter, fasting all of the fish in your tank, whether this is a good idea or not. We'll talk about the pros and cons of doing that when we come back. We'll talk about that in just a minute. So today we're going to be talking about whether or not fasting your discus fish, or for that matter all of the fish in your aquarium, once a week, or if this is just some myth out there that is not necessary and actually is harmful to your fish. I'm not saying it is or it isn't. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of fasting your discus fish or your complete tank, and leave it up to you to decide whether or not this is a good practice indeed. So the number one thing that I want to talk about first of all is that I don't tackle subjects that I don't feel passionate about. This happens to be one of those that I think is very important, because I find that there are some very interesting perspectives around the whole idea of fasting not only your discus fish but perhaps your whole tank at least one day a week. And I sort of researched this quite a bit. I talked to a lot of friends, I talked to a lot of professionals about whether or not this is a common practice and if it's beneficial to your fish in any way. And I'm going to try to answer that for you in a way that makes sense. And I'm going to look at it from the perspective as us as human beings, whether or not us fasting for one day a week and trying to eat less or not at all for 24 hours, is that something that's good for us, and can this apply to your fish as well? So I got this question back many years ago, and it was something that I really kind of avoided because I didn't know that much about it. But in recent months, I've had several people come up to me and ask me, number one, how long can their discus fish go without eating when they first are introduced to a tank before there are some health issues that can develop from that? And then the second thing is, are there some health benefits to fasting your fish in your tank for 24 hours, nothing more than that? And are there some benefits to doing that? And I'm going to try to answer that question today with what I know and what I've read, and some of the experiences some of my friends have had, and some of the professionals that I've dealt with, whether or not fasting is actually something that is practiced and is beneficial for your fish. Number one, why would you fast your discus fish in the first place? And the reason for that would be to release toxins from their body, or to release perhaps a digestive system that is not in the best of shape. Now, the reason I say that is because we feed our fish many different items, or at least that's something that I suggest we do. So if you're feeding your fish a lot of different kinds of items, you're getting different varieties of food in the system that can either break down quickly or can break down over days. And so that's something to think about. Now, what I like to do is just be honest about things, number one, and whether or not this is something that I participate in, and yes, it is. And what I like to do is follow a simple pattern of fasting your fish on a day of the week that is easiest for you and gives you an opportunity to just completely ignore the fish for one day on the feeding side of things, and kind of give the tank an opportunity to just kind of slow down a little bit and to release, like I said, some of the toxins in the body that are going to be things that are not beneficial to your fish, and can release those toxins to give your fish a nice ability to clean out their digestive tract and to start over. Now, what I like to do is on a Saturday evening, after I've done my last feeding of the day, is to take a little bit of Epsom salts, whatever is, measured properly for the size of tank that you have. Let's take this tank behind me, for example. This is a 65 gallon, and whether or not it's something that I measure out exactly. I don't measure it exactly. I just put in a little bit of Epsom salts before I do a water change on Sunday, and then after that water change, I like to start feeding my fish again. So what this does basically is, say on Saturday night I stop feeding at 5 o'clock in the evening, and I put the Epsom salts in the tank, and I go all the way until 5 o'clock the following evening, and before I feed my fish again. At this same time, I don't have to worry about taking the Epsom salts out of the tank. This is something that will dissipate on its own over water changes. If you're doing water changes 2 or 3 times a week like I do, then these Epsom salts will get out of that tank. But the beneficial nature of fasting is to clean the system out completely, especially for foods that tend to go slow through the system and don't break down as quickly. Number one, the Epsom salts will help that to happen and increase the speed in which the digestive tract moves, and also works as a laxative, so to speak, to keep your fish in that mode where their digestive tract is being cleaned out absolutely completely in a 24-hour period. Now, what are the pros of doing this? Number one, like I said, if you are not used to doing this and you're interested in this, the one thing that you want to know is it's completely harmless to do it. So if you're doing it, whether I say yes, it's a good idea, or no, it's not a good idea, the bottom line is that discus fish can go weeks, if not almost a month, without any kind of signs of having problems by not eating. So we'll clarify a couple of different things while we're talking about this subject. Number one, if you've just gotten discus fish and you are concerned about whether or not they are eating properly, perhaps that's something I can lay to rest right now, because I know that discus fish can go, like I said, 3 to 4 weeks without eating hardly anything at all, if anything at all, and do just fine without any health issues being presented at the end of that. So if that happens to you, it's not the best situation to be in, because we like to see our discus fish settle in, but there could be some intimidation problems that prevent them from feeding, and there could also be some problems with the socialization of your fish. In other words, the hierarchy and that sort of thing kicking into place, because every time you add a discus to your tank or two or whatever, you mix that whole hierarchy up, and that can become something that has to be worked out over the next couple of weeks until your tank is back to a natural pecking order that the fish have chosen, and it becomes very, very important. Now, one of the things that I would tell you about fasting on purpose, in other words, the reason why you would normally fast your fish, because of the concern about certain toxins being in their bodies and whatever. This is something that I think is a very good practice that I have done ever since I kept my discus, and for some reason I noticed that the body shape and the idea of eating, when you have fasted your fish for 24 hours, they become extremely excited about getting food especially if you've used Epsom salts or something like that during this fast. That will also really clean out the system of your fish. It will add electrolytes and things like that that might be missing in your fish. So these are all beneficial things that I think qualify you to practice fasting and doing it 1 day a week. Now, some people have told me 1 day a week is a little bit radical. For me, it has worked out fine, but if it's something you want to do once every 2 weeks or once a month, that's fine as well. But I would tell you that there is no danger whatsoever in fasting your fish once a week. And a lot of people choose Sunday because of their own religious beliefs or whatever. And there are times that are best just sometimes on Sunday. Perhaps you're not around as much on Sundays. You're taking time with your family, and this is a good time for you to fast your discus fish or other ornamental fish that you have in your tank, especially the larger ones. And we're gonna get into that in a second here as to why it's more important perhaps for the larger ones than all of the dither fish and bottom feeders and so forth that are in your tank. We'll talk about that a little bit more at the end of this video, but yes, taking Saturday night and starting that fast at around 5 o'clock and adding in a little bit of Epsom salts. Now make sure you get the Epsom salts with electrolytes that is used as a laxative. Do not get anything that is for bath practices that may have additives to it that are not natural to your fish and can be harmful to them. Make sure you read the bag over again and over again until you are absolutely certain that you have the right kind of Epsom salts for your fish. Now, some people tell me that they fast their fish, they don't use Epsom salts and whatever, and that's fine too. If you're feeding your fish and you do have a day of the week that you want to fast, or perhaps a day once every 2 weeks or once a month, then if it's working for you, continue to do that. The Epsom salts are not necessarily necessary. I find it to be good to add at this time, because what's happening is I'm totally cleaning out the digestive tract of my fish and giving them sort of a clean start on a new round of food that will be coming to them the following day. And in doing so, I've really cleaned out their systems. This also gives you an opportunity to be an observationist, and that would be something that you would be looking for as far as looking at your fish, especially your discus fish, if they happen to be your largest fish in your tank and your most expensive fish in your tank. Using Epsom salts can show you whether or not you have a worm problem that you need to address, because what will happen is when their system is being cleaned out, you'll see that white stringy poop that is in your tank, and you can see which fish are struggling with that, and know that perhaps it's now time to maybe use a dewormer of some kind. And I'll have some that I will recommend down in my description area there, and give you an opportunity to just go to the store and buy these things. You can get Epsom salts with the laxative base to it right at any grocery store. Typically it's in a little 5-pound bag typically, and gives you enough Epsom salts to really last you a very long time. So what I typically do is tell people, yes, get yourself some Epsom salts, put that in the tank the night that you start your fast, and all the way through the next day into the next time that you're going to feed them. So basically I like to take a 24-hour cycle and fast every fish in the tank, to be honest with you. I don't just fast the discus, I fast everyone in the tank, and this seems to work really, really well for me. and everyone else that I have talked to and everything that I have read suggests that this is a very good idea if you are in a place where you feel like you are comfortable fasting your fish. As far as when I say you're in a good place, meaning that your fish are normally eating healthy, ravenously, and doing really well with that, it's a much better situation than fasting fish that are iffy about their diet and iffy about the type of foods that you're feeding them. And that gets into a whole nother video that I don't want to talk about today. But if you're experiencing some medical issues or introducing new fish to your tank and you have not got them to eat yet, the fasting isn't going to hurt them. In fact, it could help them by cleaning out a digestive tract that is a little bit polluted and is keeping these guys from having a regular bowel movement and that sort of thing, and getting your fish to be able to poop on a regular basis. It would be good to see your fish during maybe the second meal of the day. I feed my fish 2 to 3 times a day, depending on the size of the fish, but it sometimes can be a good idea to sort of make an observation during that second period of feeding to see what kind of look your poop has from certain fish. Now, you may go along and see during this fast that all of your fish are pooping out that brownish red color, which is totally normal for your discus, or if they're pooping out something that is white and slimy and that kind of thing, that is an absolute scream to you that your discus have internal parasites, and that means that you need to take action. So not only is the fasting process something that is going to be beneficial for those fish, but also it gives you an opportunity to perhaps deworm your whole tank, which I like to do every 2 or 3 months, just to make sure that any tapeworms or other kind of parasites that are in your fish are being removed or killed, and relieving your fish of something like that. Now, some things that you're going to notice with fish that are not gaining a lot of weight, but the ravenous eaters are, and this is typically a tapeworm situation, just like it would be in a human, and that is that the fish is pooping, but it is pooping out, like I said, that white stringy material that is very, very unappealing and is a definite sign that there's something going on with your fish that needs to be addressed. And this is a good time during this fasting period to sort of look at that. Take a look at your fish and watch them closely and see which ones of your fish that maybe you're concerned about anyway, and see if you can diagnose a problem with their digestive tract that involves internal parasites. And this is a great opportunity to do this while you're doing some feeding therapy at the same time. So that's kind of like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Now, if any of you have questions about this, or if any of you are really into this topic and know a lot more about it than I do, then perhaps you could leave your comments down below and give us some ideas as to how you fast your discus fish or other ornamental fish. It doesn't have to be discus fish, but how you do it and what you find to be something that ends up working for you. And in doing so, that is something we can share with everyone on the channel here and get some really good information. I encourage everyone who watches the channel, whether you're fasting or not fasting, to have a little bit of input about why fasting works good for you, or why you just don't do it simply because you're concerned about fasting, and you may have some scientific ideas on why fasting is just not a good idea for your discus fish or the remaining dither fish in your tank, whether or not putting all of them on the same 24-hour fast is a good idea or not is something that I would like to hear from you on. And if you are experiencing this and have been practicing this in your own tanks for a long time, I'd really like to get a good idea from you as to whether or not this is something that makes sense to you and you have found helps your fish with their health and that kind of thing, something that is beneficial to the tank. So leave your comments down below. All of us who are typically looking at the comments will get a chance to see the experiences those of you who do fast have, and give us another idea as to whether or not fasting is something that you even practice, or you may have a reason why you don't practice. Thank you for joining me today. A weird subject, I know, but I thought it was kind of an interesting subject because, again, I do practice fasting, and I do like to see my fish stay in very good health, and I think that fasting adds a component of health to your discus tank or any other large fish in your tank, and something that may benefit them health-wise. And I think it's very, very important that we do this and give it an opportunity to flush the system out and that sort of thing. So again, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it. We got a lot of great stuff coming up, so stay with the channel. Hit that like, subscribe, comment, and share. This is how we grow this channel, by word of mouth. And if you have a favorite video or something like that, maybe you can add that into your comment area, and the person who is watching and has a question about this particular subject or lots of different subjects, it's a good time for you to have an opinion and to share that with everyone else, especially if you're having tremendous success with raising discus, which I obviously have. This is a good time and a good place to put those comments and let other people interact, and I appreciate that. So thank you again for joining me today. That's it, and we will see you on the next one. Until then, we're out of here.